I couldn't breathe. I just stood there, frozen, the bottom drawer of my dresser hanging wide open, empty. The envelope I'd tucked under my sweatshirt's gone. That envelope had everything. $1,275 in crisp bills, exactly what I needed for this month's rent. I'd withdrawn it yesterday from the bank because our landlord, Mr. Fitz, preferred cash. I even triple-counted it when I got home, placed it under my favorite gray hoodie like I always did, and locked my bedroom door before I left for work. Now it was just gone. My fingers trembled as I dug through the drawer again, yanking out each shirt, hoodie, even a pair of old jeans I hadn't worn in months. But I already knew it wasn't there. I knew. Where the hell? I whispered under my breath. A cold lump formed in my stomach, heavy and still. I turned sharply toward the door, flung it open, and stepped out into the small hallway that separated our rooms. The apartment was dead silent. Too silent. From across the hall, her door stood slightly ajar. Of course. Sasha. I tiptoed closer, my heart banging against my ribs. I could hear her inside, softly laughing on the phone. Her voice was low and casual, like she didn't just potentially ruin my life. Yeah, I got it, she was saying, giggling. Cash, too. She's so stupid, it's kinda sad. I stopped. My breath hitched. My head spun. I backed away quietly, my palms damp with sweat. I couldn't just walk in. I had no proof. Maybe it was about something else. Maybe.
No.
I knew that tone. That smug little curl in her words.
She was talking about me.
I stumbled back into my room, shut the door as quietly as I could, and sat on the edge of my bed. I'd trusted her. Sasha and I met 6 months ago when she posted on a roommate board. She seemed fun, chill, and a little messy, but I didn't mind. We both needed a place fast, and the apartment in Midtown was cheap if we split rent. In the beginning, we even bonded. We watched horror movies, went on grocery runs, and once even cried on the couch after our exes texted us the same day. But lately, something changed. She became secretive. She started staying out late. Her friends, especially that sketchy guy with a neck tattoo, started dropping by more often. Sometimes, she'd leave the apartment smelling like weed or cheap perfume and return hours later with shopping bags. Meanwhile, I was working overtime at the marketing firm downtown. I barely had time to sleep, let alone party. Still, I never thought she'd steal from me. I paced the room, panicking. The rent was due tomorrow. I didn't have time to recover that kind of cash. And if I didn't pay, Mr. Fitz would charge late fees. Or worse, evict us.
No.
Not us.
Me.
Because I knew Sasha wouldn't lift a finger. She was always broke. Always between jobs. I stopped pacing and stared at the wall. What was I supposed to do now? The next morning, I skipped work. I couldn't face spreadsheets and client calls when my entire world was tilting. Instead, I stayed in my room, trying to think. Watching. Listening. At 10:32 a.m., Sasha left the apartment. I waited 10 minutes before stepping into her room. It felt like crossing into enemy territory. Her room was a mess. Clothes piled on every surface, makeup scattered across her dresser, a half-eaten sandwich on the nightstand. I didn't want to touch anything, but my eyes scanned everything.
Drawers.
Under the bed. Her closet. And then I saw it. A zippered makeup bag resting casually under a pile of scarves. I unzipped it, my hands shaking. Inside, a thick stack of cash. Not all of it was mine, some bills looked older. But folded in the back was an envelope. My envelope. With my handwriting on it. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw everything in her room out the window. But instead, I just stood there holding it. My throat tight. My heart pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think.
Why?
How could she? That night, she came home around 8. I stayed quiet. Watched her from the corner of the living room as she made a bowl of cereal and scrolled through her phone like nothing happened. I wanted to confront her. Right then. Right there. But I knew better. I needed a plan. I messaged my friend Dana from work. She had a cousin who was a paralegal. Maybe I could ask about small claims court? Or file a police report. But would that ruin my life too? Would she retaliate? What if she denied everything? What if she claimed I stole from her? That night, I barely slept. I kept hearing her laugh. Her voice on the phone, calling me stupid. 2 days passed. I put the envelope back where I found it, making sure she didn't notice it was touched. I took photos, sent them to myself. I even recorded a voice memo of her phone conversation, muffled through the wall. The anger boiled inside me like acid. But I still wasn't ready to explode. Not yet. The third night, I saw something that made my blood go cold. I came home late from a shift. As I walked past her door, I saw her bag lying open. A piece of paper peeked out from one of the side zippers. I leaned in closer. It was a printout of our lease. My name was circled in red ink. Below it, a scribbled note. "Can I fake this?" asked Kyle.
Kyle.
Her sleazy friend who fixes things. My stomach dropped. She wasn't just stealing from me. She was trying to replace me. I didn't go to work the next day either. I called in sick with a fever. But really, my mind was burning with something worse: suspicion, rage, and fear. I sat on the living room couch, watching Sasha from the corner of my eye every time she moved. I kept my phone close, always recording audio in case she slipped again. She was too calm, too smug, like someone who thought they'd already won. Every time she laughed or talked on the phone, my stomach twisted. She was either talking about me or planning her next move. She was clever like that. The type who played innocent while setting everything around her on fire. That printout from our lease kept replaying in my mind. Why did she need it? What did she mean by, "Can I fake this"? Was she trying to remove my name? Forge something? Trick the landlord? I needed help. I texted Dana again. "Jessica, can I talk to your cousin? The legal one. It's urgent. I think my roommate is trying to get me kicked out and stole from me." Dana, holy **T.
Yeah.
I'll ask her if she's free tonight. Hang in there. Don't do anything rash. Too late. I was already doing something rash. I decided to test Sasha. I left $40 in cash half-tucked in a notebook in the kitchen drawer. Just enough to be tempting, but not enough to make it obvious. I even left the drawer slightly open. Then I left the apartment for an hour, pretending I had errands. When I came back, it was gone. Not even a trace left behind. She didn't even try to hide it. I clenched my jaw so hard I gave myself a headache. This wasn't carelessness anymore. This was war. That night, I finally confronted her. Well, almost. She was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone, legs crossed like royalty, a bowl of popcorn in her lap. She had that smug smile again. The one she wore when she lied. "Hey," I said, keeping my tone casual. "Have you seen some cash lying around?" I left it in the kitchen drawer. "It's missing." She didn't even blink. "Nope. Maybe you misplaced it." I stared at her. That was her move. Deny everything with a straight face. Always act bored. Always act like I was the crazy one. "You sure?" I asked. "It was there earlier today. $40. She shrugged. Maybe the wind took it. She laughed at her own joke. I didn't. I walked back to my room before I said something I'd regret. That night, I didn't sleep again. I scrolled through Reddit threads about roommates who steal. I read horror stories, some worse than mine, some almost identical. One woman said her roommate drained her bank account and opened the credit card in her name. Another said her roommate lied to the landlord and got her evicted overnight. I was next. I could feel it. But I still didn't have enough proof to go to the police. Not yet. Sasha hadn't signed anything when she took the money. It wasn't a check. There were no witnesses. Just my word against hers. I needed something solid. The next day, I followed her. Not like a stalker. More like a desperate detective. She left the apartment around noon, carrying that oversized tote bag she always had. I waited a full 5 minutes, then grabbed my keys and jacket and slipped out behind her. I stayed across the street, ducking behind parked cars, trying not to get caught. She walked to the train station and took the MARTA line south. I stayed back on the platform, one car behind her. She got off near Little 5 Points, a weird choice. That area was full of thrift stores, smoke shops, and tattoo parlors. I watched her enter a shady-looking pawn shop. 20 minutes later, she walked out with a smug smile and a little envelope in her hand.
Cash.
I couldn't prove it was mine, but I knew. She pawned something. Maybe my necklace? My old iPad? I hadn't checked. I ran back home, my heart racing. When I got in, I tore through my room again.
Gone.
My iPad, hidden in the closet behind old sweaters, was gone. I collapsed onto the floor and screamed into my blanket. That evening, Dana's cousin finally called me. Her name was Rachel Torres, and she worked as a paralegal for a small firm in Decatur. First off, she said, you need to document everything. Every conversation, every missing item, every dollar. Don't confront her anymore without recording it. I've already been recording audio. I have photos, too. Good. That helps. But if there's no signed agreement about the money, you'll need to show a pattern of theft. There's a pattern. Trust me. Rachel paused. Have you checked your credit report recently? My stomach dropped. No. Why? Sometimes, people who steal from roommates don't stop at cash. They go digital. If she has your info, birth date, mail, bills, you might want to check for fraud. I hung up and checked my accounts immediately. And then I saw it. A new credit inquiry. Some bank I'd never heard of. I clicked through the details and felt the blood drain from my face. The application was under my name, my address, my SSN. I wasn't just being stolen from. I was being erased. I broke down that night. I locked my bedroom door, curled into a ball on the floor, and cried until my face ached. My savings were almost gone. My iPad was gone. My credit was being attacked. And my rent money? Floating in Sasha's designer purse. I felt so stupid. I trusted her. I let her into my home. I laughed with her. I defended her when people said she was shady. And now she was destroying me from the inside out. The betrayal cut deep. But I wasn't giving up.
No.
I was going to get her out of my life, legally. And I knew exactly how I'd start. The next morning, I started with small victories. First, I ordered a full credit report through all 3 bureaus. The account Sasha tried to open was pending, but if I acted fast, I could block it before it hurt my score. I filed a fraud alert, froze my credit, changed all my passwords. It felt like setting up sandbags before a hurricane. But at least I was doing something. Then I went to our landlord's office. Mr. Dawes was a kind older man who ran the property with his daughter. He always wore flannel shirts and had a slow, deliberate way of speaking, like he was still thinking in pen and paper. "Hi, Jessica," he said when I walked in. "Rent problem again?" I nodded. "Sort of. I need to ask, has Sasha been trying to change anything about our lease?" He frowned. "Change? Like what? Like removing me? Or pretending I moved out?" His eyes narrowed. "Funny you should ask. She came in 2 days ago asking for a copy of the lease and said she'd be submitting a correction. But I told her only the primary leaseholder can initiate changes. Which is me. Exactly." My chest tightened. "So she did try. Mr. Dawes, can you please document that for me? An email or something?" He nodded slowly. "You okay, kid?" I wanted to say yes. Instead, I said, "I will be." When I got back, Sasha was in the kitchen, talking to someone on speakerphone. "Yeah, she's still acting weird," she said, laughing lightly. "But I'm handling it. Don't worry, I've got everything under control." I stepped into the room. She froze. She ended the call immediately. I didn't say anything. I just made coffee. But I could feel her eyes on me, watching, measuring. That's when I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. That night, I opened my laptop and began writing everything down in a document. Dates, missing money, conversations, photos, audio recordings, screenshots. A complete, brutal timeline of every lie, every theft, every strange incident. It was over 20 pages long. Then I made a backup. Then another. She wasn't going to erase me. Not this time. The real shock came 3 days later. I had just returned home from picking up mail from the leasing office, mostly junk, when I noticed an unfamiliar envelope mixed in. It was addressed to Sasha Daniels, but with my name under the C/O line.
Weird.
I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. Inside was a notice from the county courthouse. A scheduled court hearing. Filed under small claims. Plaintiff, Sasha Daniels. Defendant, Jessica Monroe. Reason, breach of roommate agreement. Non-payment of rent. Damages totaling $1,200. I stared at it for a full minute thinking it had to be some kind of prank. But it wasn't. She was suing me. She told the court I owed her money. That I was the one who had been skipping rent. That she was carrying the apartment financially and emotionally. That I had created a hostile environment. It was like stepping into a parallel universe where everything was flipped. I slammed the letter on the table and screamed into the empty room. She wasn't just trying to get me kicked out anymore. She wanted to destroy my name legally. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind spiraling through every possible outcome. If she convinced a judge, I could get an eviction notice. A small claims judgment. Bad credit. A record. And if I tried to move, no one rents to people with unpaid rent claims. I'd be stuck. Maybe even homeless. The thought made my chest seize. But then I remembered something. A week before, Sasha had left her laptop open on the couch. I'd walked by and noticed she was on a website. Fake rent receipts generator. I didn't say anything at the time.
But now?
It clicked. She was planning this all along. The next day, I made a risky decision. I waited for Sasha to leave for her usual gym session. Then I used the backup key I'd made back in April when she had locked herself out, and I entered her room. I filmed everything. I wasn't stealing, I was documenting. Drawers filled with receipts, some clearly printed on glossy paper that didn't even look real. A folder labeled roommate notes on her desk. Inside were handwritten lists. My name, my habits, how often I was home. Even weird things like cried 3x this week, emotional weakness? What the hell? And then her laptop. I opened the screen and it was still logged in. A Google Doc titled Strategy. Jess Situation. I read in stunned silence as Sasha had outlined a step-by-step plan for getting me out. Fabricating rent claims. Recording me to make me seem unstable. Turning the landlord against me. And finally, once she's out, change lease. Find roommate who pays more. I nearly vomited. She wasn't just stealing from me.
She was studying me.
Like prey. I backed up the files. All of them. I sent copies to myself, Rachel, and Dana. I also took screenshots and uploaded them to a private Google Drive. Then I called Rachel. Take a breath, she said after I told her everything. You've just found the smoking gun. What do I do next? We counter. And we expose her. That evening, I walked into the apartment calm as a still lake. Sasha was on the couch, painting her nails and watching TikToks. You're awfully quiet, she said, not looking up. Just tired, I replied.
But in my pocket was a USB.
On that USB was every piece of evidence that would flip this entire case upside down. And she had no idea. Not yet. But she would. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. It felt less like the dramatic courtrooms you see in movies and more like an overlit DMV with a gavel. Sasha sat 2 rows ahead of me, flipping through her printed statement like it was already over. Like she'd already won. She looked calm. Confident. I couldn't decide if it made me want to scream or smile. Because I knew something she didn't. The judge, an older woman named Judge Ramirez, called our names and we approached the front. Sasha wore a tailored blazer over a low-cut blouse, hair flat-ironed into submission, her voice sweet and falsely apologetic. Your Honor, she said with a breathy laugh, this has been so hard for me. I just want to be repaid for the financial strain I've been under. She submitted her proof. Printed Excel sheets. Bank statements with some redacted numbers. Rent receipts. I watched her with quiet fascination. How easily she lied. How polished it all looked, even knowing it was fake. I almost admired the effort. Until the judge turned to me. Ms. Monroe, Your response. I stood,
Come.
unshaking. I have evidence to the contrary, I said, handing over my neatly organized folder with digital backups ready on a flash drive. And I'd like the court to consider not only proof that I paid my share, but that the plaintiff may have engaged in fraud. Sasha blinked. The judge frowned. I started walking through the timeline. I showed the original Venmo payments, screenshot after screenshot. I showed bank records. I showed my email to the landlord dated the day I found the rent money gone. And then I pulled out the big one. I also have a copy of a document found on Ms. Daniels' personal computer, I said. It's titled Strategy, Jess Situation. It outlines a planned character defamation strategy to have me removed from the apartment and replaced. Sasha's mouth parted slightly. No, she blurted. That's fake. She hacked me. The judge raised a hand. Ms. Daniels, I'll give you a chance to speak. For now, let Ms. Monroe finish. I pulled up the Google Drive on the courtroom monitor. Here's a screenshot of the doc metadata. Logged in under her Gmail. Time-stamped. This wasn't hacked. She left it open. I heard a snort from the back of the room. Rachel. She had come to watch silently just in case. The judge spent 10 minutes reviewing the documents. Her expression shifted slowly from neutral curiosity to tight-lipped disapproval. Ms. Daniels, she finally said, do you have an explanation for this document? Sasha's face flushed red. I was venting. I never meant. But you submitted receipts to this court. The judge cut her off. Receipts which, upon close inspection, are clearly doctored. The formatting is inconsistent with official rental statements from your landlord. Did you fabricate these? I just wanted to be reimbursed. And did Ms. Monroe owe you any money?
No.
But she made things difficult. Being difficult is not grounds for legal fraud. The silence that followed was brutal. I didn't gloat. I didn't smirk. But inside, I burned with the most dangerous kind of satisfaction, the kind that comes when the truth, finally, has weight. The ruling came fast. Case dismissed. Sasha was fined for filing a frivolous claim and warned that the landlord would be notified of her actions. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. That night, I returned home to find Sasha pacing the apartment, wild-eyed. You think you won? She snapped. You embarrassed me in court. You humiliated me. I told the truth. She stalked toward me. You ruined everything. Now Mr. Dawes won't even talk to me. He said I have 30 days to move out. I paused. Wait, move out? I hadn't expected that. She laughed bitterly. I should have known. You were always pretending. Little quiet Jess. So meek. I didn't think you had it in you. I dropped my bag and took a step closer. I didn't want to fight you, Sasha. But you forced me to.
You stole from me.
You tried to erase me. That's not a roommate. That's an enemy in disguise. She scoffed. You act like I killed someone.
No.
But you tried to kill my future. Silence. Then she shoved past me and slammed her bedroom door. Over the next 2 weeks, Sasha slowly unraveled. She didn't clean.
Didn't speak.
Packages stopped arriving. I caught her crying once on the phone, begging someone, maybe her mom, for money. Then came the final blow. The landlord called. Jessica, Mr. Dawes said. We're terminating Sasha's part of the lease. Since you're the official tenant, the unit is yours to fill. We'll need her out by the 1st. I nearly dropped my phone. It was over. But it didn't feel like a victory. Not entirely. Because as awful as she had been, Sasha was once my friend, my roommate, someone I shared Chinese takeout and midnight movies with. And now she was packing her life into garbage bags. One night, I found her sitting on the floor with just a lamp and an empty pizza box beside her. She looked up at me, eyes glassy. I thought I could outsmart everyone, she mumbled. I thought I was the main character. You were, I said, in your own version of the story. She gave a sad, bitter smile. And in yours. In mine, I whispered. I survived. The apartment felt different now. Quieter. Colder.
Still.
Even with the windows open, There was a heaviness to the air, as if the walls themselves were trying to exhale what had happened here. Sasha was gone. She left early on the first morning of the month.
Didn't say goodbye.
Just slipped away before the sun rose, like a ghost finally moving on. I found her key on the kitchen counter. A post-it beside it. I lost. Don't become me. I sat at the table, rereading that message for hours. The fallout wasn't as clean as I'd hoped. Even though I won the case and kept the apartment, I still had to explain to friends what happened, most of whom had only ever heard Sasha's side before the truth came out. Some apologized. Some never spoke to me again. The human mind is funny that way. People remember the drama, not the facts. But the ones who mattered stuck around. Rachel, especially. She brought over wine that first weekend, plopped onto my couch and said, "So, demon ex-roommate officially exorcised?" I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because I could finally breathe. "Yes," I said. "It's over." But it wasn't. Not really. 3 weeks passed. One morning, I woke up to a letter under my door. No return address. No stamp. Just my name in sharp, angular handwriting I knew too well. Inside were 6 words written in red pen. "You only won the first round." My stomach dropped. I checked the door.
Locked.
Windows secure. But I couldn't stop the anxiety from creeping in. Was it a joke? A bluff? A final attempt to rattle me? I called Rachel. She drove over within 15 minutes, clutching a baseball bat like we were about to face a zombie invasion. She checked every corner of the apartment. We found nothing. Still, that night, I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called the building manager to check security footage. Nothing, he said. No signs of Sasha or anyone out of the ordinary. But something still felt off. A few days later, I got another package. A small box. No label. Inside, a broken picture frame. A photo of me and Sasha from our first week as roommates. And a thumb drive. I didn't want to plug it in. But I did. There was only one file. A video. Sasha sitting on a floor I didn't recognize. Her face was thinner, hollow. Eyes sunken. She looked gone. She stared into the camera. "You think I'm gone, Jess? That I'm just some failed villain in your happy little ending?" She chuckled bitterly. "This wasn't just about money. It was about power. And you took mine." A long pause. Then, "But power can be reclaimed.
So sleep well."
You never know when a locked door is just a false sense of safety." The video ended. I went to the police. Filed a restraining order. They took it seriously. But not seriously enough. "She hasn't directly threatened you," they said. "It's creepy, yes, but unless she shows up, there's not much we can do." I changed my locks the next day. Got pepper spray. An alarm. And I started documenting everything, screenshots, emails, even a daily log of anything unusual. I wanted to believe it was over. But it wasn't. 2 months later, I got a call from a local shelter. "Hi, is this Jessica Monroe?" "Yes. We believe someone recently checked in under your name." When we confronted her, she ran. She left behind a journal. It had pages about you. My skin turned cold. They faxed me copies. Dozens of entries. Scribbled, manic. She took everything from me. She's still pretending to be the victim. She's safe, but not for long. And one page circled over and over again. I just want her to feel what I felt. Months passed. Nothing happened. No Sasha. No more letters. Eventually, I started to rebuild. I got a new roommate, an older woman named Grace who kept to herself and paid rent on time. I started sleeping better. But sometimes, just sometimes, when the wind knocks against my window a little too hard, or I find something in my apartment that I don't remember moving, I wonder, is she still watching? Still waiting? Or did I win after all? Final line. They say home is where you feel safest, but ever since Sasha, I've learned that safety is just a story we tell ourselves when the lights are on.